Okay, I have removed the faceplate from the piece of wood, and now I can mount it in the chuck. These jaws will grab the little tenon that I've made until I need to oil my chuck. This is a one-way stronghold chuck. Weighs quite a bit more than the bowl does. I made this a slight calabash shape, a little bit turned inward at the top, so it's a little bit more interesting than kind of a cylindrical bowl. For working on a bowl of this size, I normally use a 3/8 bowl gouge, not a big 1/2-inch one. That was pretty good for knocking off the corners fast. And one of the reasons that you can go pretty quickly at that is that with these side grind gouges, you got a cutting surface that's this wide or this wide, so you can take a single pass if you have a powerful enough lathe and really remove a lot of wood. You don't have to monkey around taking your time. So what I'll do is face this off, make a decision about, I think I'll bring this in a little bit more. Keeping in mind that the wood fibers go this way, I'm going to get a smoother cut when I go from small diameter to large. This is the opposite of a spindle turning, like this handle, where you want to cut from large diameter to small. On a bowl, you do it the other way around, as long as the fibers are going sideways here. So when I want to shape this bowl and have it be a little narrower here and have the wide spot up here, I actually want to cut in this direction, from smaller to larger. Put my face shield on just in case something goes bad. So I was doing a gentle shear scrape there to just blend those two curves together. Now let's face off the front here with my, it's just touching. I'm going to again use my 3/8 bowl gouge. Okay, now the hard part's going to be turning with the camera right where I want my arms to be. This will be fun. So I can make a series of cuts and hollow out the interior. And in this case I'm actually cutting with the nose of the gouge. There's a lot of different ways of using a bowl gouge. Leave that center cone, then I can cut it away. Tool rest is a little too high. Then I'm going to make a decision about what to do here. There's this bark inclusion that creates a bit of a crack, and I think what I'll do is squirt a little thin CA in there, stabilize that bark, and I think we can keep it as a feature on the rim of the bowl. If it gets any worse and really becomes a crack, then we want to turn it away entirely. As a little gap with bark in it, we're kind of near there's a bit of a crotch figure going on here. It can actually add some interest to the piece of wood, but if it's just a crack, you know, a ring shake or heat check from sanding or turning, you know, and generating too much heat, we don't want to keep that around. That'd be pretty bad. I never use accelerator. There's usually enough moisture in the wood that I work with. This stuff's at least 10 years old, so probably closer to 15 years old. So it may not set up as quickly. I'll be careful that the first few rounds this is going to spray a bit. I don't want to get it on my mask because CA is pretty good at weakening plastic face shields. I'll put some level of detail on this rim. I'm not really sure what yet. Who knows? Just leave it like so. And let's see if this is going to take. Alright, good enough. It's much thicker than I'd leave it, so I'm going to turn that away. And it'll be kind of weird working across the lathe bed with the camera here. We'll see if it works. And we'll see if I can do this so that my arms don't block all of the view. Some of these cuts are a little more aggressive than they might usually be because this isn't the way I normally would turn this. I kind of want to stand right where the camera is. We can easily see that the wood can be removed quite quickly with traditional woodworking tools that were made for the job. You know, bowl gouge is made to do this. That's a catch from reaching over the lathe and not being able to hold the gouge where I want to. Let's see what kind of damage that did. Caught it on the inside, so it did a little bit of damage right in here. I'm going to get rid of that. Now I'm going to get in the way a little bit. I don't want that to happen again. So we see the same issue when we come down into the bottom of a bowl and we come around this corner and we're starting to push towards the center. As we do that, we cut right here, we push into that face, we push into that uncut face of wood, especially if you've left a bit of a column there. Sometimes people bring up the tailstock and they've left quite a lot of wood there. It's often easier to remove that by taking your gouge and going this way. The same principles as when we rounded this square piece of wood up in the first place. You're cutting nothing but side grain going this way. You're cutting straight into the end grain when you go this way. Right there, it goes from side grain to end grain, and then from end grain back to side grain again, and you get this pretty rough patch right there. So the cut will be so much easier pushing in this way. You have to be real careful that you don't go too far, because it's real easy to go right through the bottom of the bowl that way. Okay, now, as a somewhat calabash-shaped bowl, I actually have to make this curve outward a little bit. And, you know, if it's a severe curve or a lot of curvature, the better cut would be on the inside going from wide to narrow. The inside of the bowl is opposite from the outside of the bowl. But I'm going to try to turn my gouge down at a bit of an angle here. Again, not the way I would normally hold my gouge, so pretty interesting. Let's see what we get. And again, it's a little thicker than I want, but what the heck. You can also do a bit of a shear scrape coming this way, but it might end up being quite a lot of sanding if you don't manage that well. Again, I'm getting these pushbacks because I'm not holding the gouge the way I would like to, because the camera's right where I want to be. So let's make a definitive cut here. Okay, let me go to my little guy. I often make finishing cuts on bowls with a 1/4 inch bowl gouge that's ground straight across, sort of a conical grind, a little bit more like an English grind. And I hope I don't block all of the view, but I'm just going to try to get in here and clean that surface up. And again, I'm unable to see the front of the gouge because of the camera angle. So let's reshape this. I want this to be rounded. And let's see if I can get in here and use this gouge correctly. So there's a number of ways of using a bowl gouge. You can cut at the nose, you can cut on the downhill side or on the uphill side. And one thing you can do is sort of what Richard Graffin would call a back cut, cutting on the left side of the gouge, which I can't do because I can't see what I'm doing. I have to sort of do it by feel and look over here and see the result. So I'm just going to try to kind of come around this curve. It's a fairly small tool. You know, the 1/4 inch diameter means that it can't reach out very far without having a good deal of chatter, and you could hear that. You start to get that musical tone. It's not what you really want to hear when you're turning a bowl. So I got the tool rest quite a lot closer to the wood now. I do quite a lot of hollow form turning, and this is similar. I'm not even able to see the tip of the tool here, but I'm looking over here to see the result. Not the way you would instruct somebody to turn, but now to come around the other part of the bowl here, I'm going to use a stiffer tool that can reach over the rest a little bit more readily. And then I might go back to that little tool to clean it up at the end. Let's see. Yeah, it gets rather thick at the bottom, so I have to go deeper. Kind of fun turning a bowl almost by feel. Yep, so I've got to remove a little more wood in there. I'm going to push this rest in closer. And then at some point we're going to should have mentioned at the outset, I hope the batteries will hold up. We're sitting out in an unheated barn. It's about 24 degrees in here, probably only 20 degrees outside. Got about a ½ inch of snow last night, so having the batteries just sit there playing, running the video camera while we're working here is a bit of a challenge probably. Now I think I'll come in here and try and refine this with my little gouge. I may not be able to do that with the camera running just because I'm going to have to sort of get over here and try to turn. I'll try to do this by feel. Now I run into the camera, so I have to, maybe I'll finish this off with a scraper. Not my favorite way to do a bowl, but probably the easier way to do it when there's a camera involved. So here's a round nose scraper. I'm going to put a little bit of a burr on it. Diamond tool and give it a little bit of a let's see. I've got an edge, a ridge there to get rid of. Again, doing this pretty much by feel. Since I've made hundreds of bowls, well, many hundreds, the idea of getting down to the bottom of a bowl is not such a big deal, but it's kind of fun to do it without being able to see a doggone thing. That is fun. Some people use a scraper for the inside of every bowl. I am a reluctant scraper user. I find that I don't get as good a surface from a scraper as I do from a gouge. So I can try to go in here and do a bit of a shear scrape. Maybe get a little bit more of a hollow out there. Be careful because you really don't have enough thickness to support the cut without getting a lot of honking and screaming. Let's see what we've got here. So we got a bowl that we could refine and maybe sand, and let's pull it off the chuck so everybody can see, and we'll quit with this, and maybe I'll go to refine it. So here's the shape of the bowl. It curves up, comes in a little bit. We still have a little foot, so we can reverse that, deal with the foot. Here's the inside. You can see that little bit of crotch figure there with a bit of a bark inclusion. It's, if I were to meter that, you know, a little thick right in here, so I may remount it and finish it up properly. But there's a, you know, a cute little bowl that you could use for most anything, and it takes all but 20 or 30 seconds to make it go from square to round, and then, you know, 10 or 15 minutes you can have a nice bowl if you have the right combination of tools and techniques. Thanks.